Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my adventure on the MV Sagamore. Another week, another dollar, as they say. Well, maybe this week we'll earn some more dollars as we take a look at our next weekly lottery ticket. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? All right, moving right along. We are up to ticket number 25, and we got our coin right here, so we are ready to go. Would be nice to win on one of these bonuses, but you never know what we'll get until we check it out. So, nothing there. Nope. Alright, so nothing on the bonuses, but that's okay. Again, bonuses are nice to win, but they kind of guarantee you not to get a top prize. So you can still win a good top prize down below. So let's take a look. Alright, not too bad. Oh, wow. We ended the last ticket with Bumpin' Uglies, and we started this week. And again, another teaser. We got 31 and 33 and 32 right there. How unreal. But I'm not giving up hope. Maybe we can start another winning streak. Again, my current winning streak is 4 in a row. And wouldn't mind seeing 5 in a row someday, or more. So let's see what we get. Alright, we're just getting started. So let's see here. 34, continuing that teaser. We had 43, wrong order. Niner. We do have 2 singles. 49er. And 38, no, not quite. 67, nope. 40, nope. 19, we had 18, close. 23, nope. We had 32. Getting all these wrong order numbers. And number 39, nope. 8, nope. 30, nope. 42, well, we had 43. 42, that's the answer to everything. Oh, 41. And I was just thinking, I would probably get 44 at the same time. I'd be good at guessing numbers, but not scratching them. 29. 24. 36, not quite. 64. Oh, we had 63. Boy, I love Nintendo 64 though, let me tell you. 26, nope. 37, nope. 68. Yeah, 48. 61, nope. 28, nope, we had an 18 and a 48. It's not looking too good. 13, oh, we had a 12. Alright, you know what it's time for, the clutch corner, so let's check it out. Let's see what our potential prize is for today. Wow, that would be awesome. Can the clutch corner come through for us? Let's see. 1. There's actually an interesting story here. for a while, I actually bought tickets, and I would scratch in the playing field a number one, and it was always for the top prize. And I guess this is no different. Number one would have given me a 5 million prize, and I have won on tickets where the winning number was a one, and I found a one here, and I remember being super excited for it, thinking maybe I got a top prize, but I think it was a break-even prize. But on other tickets that I've scratched, for some reason, if I check the prize for a number one, it has always been the top prize of that game. So, well, we continued our losing streak, so we got another bust, but that's all right. We're still going to have some fun today with our topics and discussions, so how about we jump right into it? And yes, that is a Super Nintendo controller you see over there. I love the classics just as much as I love the current generation games. So let's see what we got for today. All right, here we are, and as you can see, I got a hard hat on today as part of the show and tell for this week. We did life-saving equipment last week, so this week we'll do PPE, which stands for Personal Protective Equipment. And this hard hat that I have here is standard issue, again, to all personnel who come on board. And it has been my experience to think that the color of the hard hats denote position or rank or the work that one person is doing. And over the years, I've noticed that the white hard hats are usually the upper management level personnel, and the licensed engineers or the licensed deck department personnel, and the cargo operators. And then we get into like different colors. I've seen blue and yellow, which tend to be designated or reserved for workers and contractors, and just unlicensed crew members. And then there's also red, which is usually associated with firefighting, and I've also seen green and orange, and I think those are more like also workers and also Coast Guard workers. Now, when I was going through school, I was actually given a green hard hat because I was also given a green name tag, and my class were known as the green taggers, and every class had their own color. There was red, black, and blue. And I wish I was a red tagger when I was going into school. I was the green tagger, but when I was going through school, the red taggers were the seniors, which means once I became a sophomore, and this is college, when I became a sophomore, I still remained as green taggers, but the seniors graduated, so the incoming class became the red taggers. And I remember being a freshman as a green tagger and seeing the red taggers, and I absolutely feared them because they were the seniors, and it was a regimented lifestyle, and they could demand push-ups on the spot if you made an infraction of any kind, and well, back then they could. And yeah, it was just kind of rough going through school. But we have the hard hat here as part of the PPE, and other PPE that we have is safety glasses, and we also have a headlamp or a light, so you can go ahead and put that on. And let's see here, it's a little too bright, and it also comes with a red light too, which is pretty cool, and it blinks, but we'll leave that off for now. And then we also have hearing protection. Got to protect your ears when in the engine room especially. And then we also have gloves. They give these to you when you get on a ship, but I prefer these type of gloves. They're like the mechanics gloves because they give you a bit more freedom with your fingers and a bit more flexibility. But for the standard ship issue ones, they give you these. And I'll go ahead and put this one on. And finally, we have a dust mask. So here I am, fully PPE'd, ready to get to work. And Obviously, dust mask, I'm sure everybody around the world is very intimately familiar with these. But for the most part, with these headphones or these earphones, I prefer the earplugs because the head these earphones, they kind of dig into my jaw a little bit, and they're also bulky and only provide so much hearing protection. But the earplugs, they're much easier to put in and remove, and they provide great protection, and they don't discomfort my jaw, and they're better for use. So we'll go ahead and take this off, and let's see what we got for topics today. So going back to last week with the lifeboat, or a life raft, if you get into one, they always come with equipment and other parts, and usually they contain water and food, obviously for survival. And when you get on board a life craft, whether it be a life raft or a lifeboat, you actually don't drink any water for 24 hours. The reason for that is that when you do go to drink the water, that your body has developed into a state where it will absorb the most it can from the water that you drink versus expelling it out after a period of time. And for food, for a while they used to give you a certain amount of food per week or per day, but instead of a certain amount, they limited it to a certain number of calories, and I believe it's 10,000 calories for every number of days, which makes sense because I believe it's about a normal 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day that a human consumes for a normal diet. So for it to provide 10,000 calories, that'll last you about 4 or 5 days. If you eat it in increments based on your normal daily intake. And they come in the form of like compressed granola bars. And I've actually tried some of them, and it's okay, but not the best. That's why it's recommended to have a backpack ready to go in the event that you have to abandon ship that has water and food and medicine and other survival things that you will need, which will help with surviving at sea. And some other things that a lifeboat comes with is a flashlight, a fishing kit, medicine, a knife, and or a water pump. The water pump is used. You can actually pump the seawater, and it will create fresh water for you to drink. So it's not just the amount of water that's available on board for everybody, but you can actually make more water if you're at sea for a prolonged period of time waiting for rescue. And a few other survival facts. Well, these are what I've learned in school. I'm sure they are more or less a reference, and probably depending on your age, your physical fitness, or the water temperature that you're in, it can all vary. But I remember hearing about a 50 rule in college, and basically it said that a 50-year-old man can survive in 50-degree water for 50 minutes. And I thought that was really interesting, but at the same time I was wondering, how did they come up with that data? And they actually had an entire chart of people based on age range, water temperature, and duration or exposure to that. And how did all this get known? It doesn't sound right that they would, test that out on humans, but unfortunately, believe it or not, it was discovered in 1940s Germany in concentration camps. The soldiers or German guards would take their prisoners and actually put them in pools of water at different temperatures and time how long it took for them to pass away, which is horrendous, but it does provide some of this information, at least when you're going through training and survival at sea training. It kind of puts things in perspective. And again, it's all more or less a reference. It's not actually an exact science, I suppose. But There's also the rule of threes, and I thought this one was interesting because the last one is very interesting for me. But basically, it says when you're surviving at sea, you can survive for 3 weeks without food, which makes sense. And then you can go 3 days without water, which also makes sense because you need water to break down the food. That's another thing that they tell you if you're in a life raft. If you have no water, don't eat anything because you're going to get thirsty and your body won't be able to break down the food uh, after you eat it. You need water to be able to break it down. And then you can survive 3 hours without shelter, which is more or less being in the water and or being exposed to the elements or the environment, like being out in the sun, the heat. If you're in a life raft that doesn't have a cover to it, or you're just in an open lifeboat, or and then 3 minutes. You could probably figure it out. You can survive for 3 minutes without oxygen. Like if you're underwater, uh, you can go about 3 minutes. On average, that's about the amount of time that a person can survive without oxygen. And then from 3 minutes, we go to 3 seconds. And when I heard about this in school, as we were going through the steps, I was thinking logically, 3 weeks, days, hours, minutes, but I had no idea what you can survive for 3 seconds without, and that is hope. And I thought that was really, really interesting because they say that without hope, you just give up. That's like if you're drowning or if you're out at sea for months at a time and you give up on life, that you'll just go overboard and drown. You just give up. And I thought that was really interesting. But I love all these random facts. In fact, I have a book called The Useless Book of Information, or the or Book of Useless Information, I should say. And it has a bunch of random facts, and it was published in 2006. So I'm sure a lot of it is outdated, at least those with like statistics and numbers and whatnot. Because one of the facts is that that the United States makes 200 million M&Ms a day. I'm sure that number has increased since then. But I actually looked up some facts regarding one of the more well-known vessels of humanity, a very famous vessel, or maybe infamous, but it's called the Titanic, which I'm sure you've heard about. And no, I have not watched the movie, and I have my reasons, but I'm not going to get into that. But I do have a lot of interesting facts regarding the Titanic. And the first one said that back in 1898, which is about 14 years before the tragedy of the Titanic, an author actually wrote a book called Futility, I believe was the title. And it described a very large vessel at the time crashing on an iceberg in the Atlantic Ocean in the cold April month. And that's what happened with the Titanic only 14 years later. And when the Titanic sunk, it had 7,500 pounds of ham on it. And probably wouldn't be too good today. But that was pretty interesting. And among the survivors of the Titanic, there were 2 dogs. Believe it or not, yes. And that's one of the things that I kind of look for when I watch movies. Like, I don't care what happens to all the characters or the humans or whatnot, as long as the animals survive, that the dog survives, that the cat survives, or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why I can't really watch the beginning of John Wick, but at least he doles out some much needed and very nice sweet justice in the later of his movies, and I can't wait to see John Wick 4. They need to hurry up and make that one. Some other interesting facts: when the Titanic impacted on the iceberg, they were going 22 knots, which is pretty quick. The ship itself had 4 engines, and every year Americans eat potato chips to the amount that it weighs 6 times more than the ship Titanic weighed, which is a lot of food and a lot of potato chips. And one other last interesting fact about the Titanic was that no engineers survived. In fact, they all stayed on board and they all stayed in the engine room and tried to keep the generators running for as long as they can to keep the lights on so that others may escape and survive, which I thought was very honorable. And I hope I'm never in such a serious situation on board a ship, but I know I would want to do the best that I can to help and save my other shipmates. So, I tip my hard hat to them. So, just as I mentioned last week, how a group of officers is called a mess, funnily enough, some other groups that I thought were interestingly named, like a group of frogs is called an army, and then a group of owls is called a parliament, and a group of kangaroos is called a mob. So I thought that was pretty cool. And let's see. Um, I think that's about it. We'll go ahead and secure this episode, and we'll have some more random facts for next week, and maybe some sea stories. In fact, I'll go ahead and share a quick one with you. Because we actually had a crew change today. We had some people depart and had some more personnel come on to relieve them. And one of them was my oiler of my watch team. And my oiler went ashore for a vacation, and we had a new oiler come on board. But they did a very, very quick turnover, like a very quick relief. And that's usually standard when boarding a vessel or leaving a vessel, that you receive a turnover from who you're relieving, or you give a turnover to who's relieving you. And I remember one ship that I went to a long time ago, there actually was no engineer to relieve. There was a gap in the billet. And when I got there, I had to basically just jump right into it and familiarize myself with the vessel, the engine room, and all my responsibilities. And after a while, with my watch team, I was talking with one of my oilers, and I had asked them, wasn't there, an engineer here prior to my arrival? Because when I got here, there was no one here. And they said, yes, there was someone there, and he had to be emergency brought to shore for a medical emergency. And it's unfortunate what happened. Pretty much every bad vice you can think of that this engineer was involved with. He had massive amounts of debt. He, the drugs, he smoked, he drank, he had problems with his girlfriend, he gambled, whatever you can think of, he was involved with. And then one day, he was down in the engine room on watch, and his oiler called up to the chief engineer and told the chief engineer to come down right away, that something's going on. And he wouldn't get into the details, but it was enough to get the chief engineer down there to see what's going on. And the oiler still wouldn't say exactly what was going on, but he told the oiler told the chief engineer to go to the workshop and see what the engineer is doing, the watch engineer or the third engineer. And because the oiler couldn't deal with it, he had just went over the deep end, the watch engineer. So the chief engineer goes into the workshop and is just almost faints at what he sees. His jaw just hits the deck. Turns out that the watch engineer, the third engineer, just broke up with his girlfriend and was taking an electric grinder, which is used to like smooth out and grind like steel and metal parts on ships. And he was using it to wipe off a tattoo that he had on his leg of his girlfriend's name. Ouch. Yes, there was skin and blood all over the workshop. It was really bad. Chief engineer was just in total shock, and they had to get him to the hospital on the ship, or the Binnacle, and they bandaged him up and they flew him to, I guess, a medical facility or a mental institution to try and get him to recuperate. So, I hope he's doing all right. And I was wondering why I boarded the vessel, without a relief. And there you go. Uh, Kind of a interesting sea story to end today. Maybe I'll have a more hilarious one in store for you next week. But for now, to all you YouTubers out there, thank you for joining me today, and stay classy. I'm ND Knight. Yes, I am. Signing out. Good night.